some music for me so I can learn how to
People went there and that.
Or what about this one, Libby? The person talking about wanting to be, in the group. How much really there would be a great value actually in being in the group. Actually, we see things happening like that out there, in therapy, incredibly.
Which one would be talking about something without
Now it's possible for me to learn what I need to know out of here, right? So without any talk at all, I could just shift myself in.
Would not speaking the words bring about the physiology? Like if I was sitting going, oh, I'm so happy, would not speaking the words eventually bring me to happiness, or would I need the physiology first?
Can I demonstrate this?
Yes.
Okay, neocortex activity. Punch it real good. David, I really want you to feel proud. Now, listen to my words and just go in there and feel proud. Okay, that's from the top down. Now, this is from the bottom up. 80? Now, that's working with the body.
So working with the body, like for example, if I wanted to create a state of my being, I would adopt the physiology of what the state is and how it is.
Yes, that is the state. That is what we do with our body. Okay, did everybody catch that? Okay, the body is the mind's experience of itself. When you feel an emotion, the reason why you do is because of how you're using your body parts. Like, so if somebody's feeling inhibited, it's impossible to feel inhibited unless you really get those gut muscles going right. Unless you really kind of start to feel the hamstrings, okay? And then you start to feel the muscles pulling, all the muscles that contract the body, flex the body, okay? And then, the more that you start to do that, the more likely it is you could have an excellent, feeling state of inhibition. Okay. Without using those body parts, it would be infinitely more difficult. If you were stretching out, for instance, really stretching out, or if you were exercising, it's very difficult to feel inhibited, I tell you.
This is the basis of all the ancient tantric teachings.
Right.
Basically say you could talk about enlightenment, you could meditate, you could read books, you could learn Sanskrit chants, you could do anything, but until the body itself feels delight and ecstasy, there's still part of enlightenment that we can't get there until the body gets there, so might as well get there in the body and then it happens.
Okay, that's yes.
So the way that we say language affects physiology, and the way that actually works is our language sets up physiology in somebody else, and then they have the experience of that physiology, and that's how they experience that word, that language.
Okay. To the degree to which the body is accepting the words that are being used, it's possible that me saying that I really enjoy this feeling of happiness coming into me. Okay, it's likely that actually my words will start to possibly shape my body. However, truly, and that's one way that sometimes a person's just thinking about things with their words, and it does affect their physiology. But if it didn't affect their physiology, they're still not going to get it. And the main thing is that the body is the mind's experience of itself, that we perceive everything through our body.
There's so much focus in metaphysical circles on affirmation. And I found when I tried to use that idea that it didn't work for me to read that every day. I'm happy, or I'm rich, or I'm... it was like very ineffective, even though everybody was doing it and saying it was really good. Is that because it's a long way to... Eventually it would work?
Oh, because the affirmation has to be something which is ecological and sound. And
experience of the reality. You have something to experience. How do you experience that?
Yeah. So it's it would take a long time to do it that way.
It's always how the person is doing this, not the words themselves, but actually how the person is actually doing it. So, for instance, I am happy, or I am rich. I don't know whether you have an affirmation like that, would you?
Yeah.
Okay, I am rich. So then, what does that mean?
I don't know. Check your pockets. It means you're not. Actually,
right.
If you're saying you are rich, then you have to affirm that. Then there's some place inside there that
doesn't believe that you already.
It's like actually you're telling the unconscious there's some place.
So how do you affirm something? How would you affirm that?
living it.
With the body, feeling it. Because this is something I tried the other day in pottery. It's very vestibular and something I've been doing because you're constantly focused on the balancing. And I was thinking of something you said the other day, if you want to learn how to do something, pretend as if you already are a master at doing it. And I was trying to bring the clay up and it was ripping all over the place. So I said, well, let me try to pretend, let me feel as if I completely know how to do this. And I went, and it was such a feeling that I had to feel the masterfulness in me. First, I couldn't lie to myself and say, yes, I know how to do this.
Okay, so actually, you know something, I hardly would listen to a tape right today, subliminal, unless it really was employing, that I knew that people had some NLP background. You know, I wouldn't listen to it, honestly, because you want to know something, it's antiquated. Unless the tapes have this recent understanding, it's antiquated. Absolutely, it's antiquated. And now, another thing, the minute that you are understanding about what language that creates whole brain functioning, these NLP tapes are even beginning to be antiquated. Because they're not having this understanding that that we're sharing here about whole brain functioning and the language of peace. So even though, for instance, Tony Robbins' tapes, I think are state of the art as far as tapes are concerned and things like that, it's missing some pieces quite incredibly. And the pieces are these things that we're sharing here about whole brain functioning.
Within these behaviors and responses, is there room for individuation? Each person's stomach is probably shaped different. It still performs the function of a stomach. But for someone to be proud and be out there like this, for some people that may mean they become very verbal or very active. For other people, to sit like that with a grin would be, I think, a similar response. And what I'm hearing sometimes is, well, if you have this functional capability, then this will be the result. And I see that there's a possibility of some individuation where the sense of pride, the sense of being out there, of less ambitions, is individual. How one person may perceive it and act on it would be a lot different than another. Is that the case, or if everybody felt really out there and part included the group, would everybody dance with the lamp shade on their head?
Okay. The question relates to fixed action movement patterns. Even a cell will, if it's agitated, will retreat. A single cell will do this. And the same laws, in fact, that's governing the way this floor is put together here, are governing us. The same laws that are governing chemical reactions actually are governing our consciousness. And a way to understand behaviour certainly is by, being a geologist, or being a carpenter, and being truly understanding of the way things are put together. It's possible that the same laws truly that are framing a house are framing the pieces that we put together in our life and the way consciousness is. Mostly that we're following fixed action movement patterns actually, and that this is cross-cultural. So some time ago, about 15 years ago, someone wanted to find out, well, is smiling something that's conditioned, or is smiling something that's a fixed action movement pattern? And they eventually found out. They visited a tribe in New Guinea, and they were one of the last peoples to find the most primitive. Right, hadn't ever come in contact with Western civilization, and the anthropologists that went there to discover this saw these people, and they were smiling and everything, What we know today is that when the zygomaticus muscle major, which is this muscle group here, is activated, this is a fixed action movement pattern which is stimulating a cortex area, warming cortex area that's actually involved in feeling pleasure. So even if someone was not feeling very well but they were smiling, it's more likely that it starts to actually affect their physiology. And
laughing must be another one of those too.
Genes.
Yes.
I noticed the other day I was driving down here and I forced myself to. It wasn't anything funny going on. I just started laughing and giggling just like that. And all of a sudden, it's like then I started laughing and giggling, like without even putting any energy into it. It just started happening spontaneously.
That's wonderful. I think what a wonderful thing it is that you don't have a clue what it is you're giggling about, but you just have this feeling that you're learning, and that's very funny. It's and that you have the ability to chuckle about that. Actually, that's wonderful.
I do that sometimes when I'm running. I'll be running along the house and I go, God, you're hardly enjoying this. So I kind of go smile, and then I'll really enjoy it. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was really thinking about smiling and everything. I noticed I used to smile all the time. Like when Allie and I were in high school, we would just smile all the time. And then a couple of years ago, I thought, God, I'm kind of getting like smile lines on my face, though. I'm not really big that, And so I kind of thought, well, do I have to be smiling to be, really beaming pleasure? And I came up with the answer that, I can really beam pleasure and also have a very relaxed face. Because sometimes my face just hurt from smiling. I'd be like, my jaw, And so anyway, there's also like an inner smile that beams out that same pleasure to people around.
Yeah, the Taoists talk about the inner smile. There's a whole book written on it. And Mantak Chi, it shows the cycle of energy. It goes through the chakras and circles, comes up, comes down, goes back down, brings the Kundalini Energy, and kind of stirs up the energy in the belly, and comes back up.
What is the Kundalini Energy? It's very important, actually. Whenever you think of your sexual apparatus, your genitals, right?
Sexual apparatus.
And whenever you're thinking, whenever you access that in your brain, you're stimulating a substance to be released, by your testicles or by your ovaries, and this substance is a mother molecule in the body. It's called pro-opiomelanocortin. It's pro-opio. So it's a natural body opiates. So it's pro-opio, melatonin. Melatonin is regulating the menstrual cycle. It's regulating all the diurnal cycles that occur within the day. And then cortisol. That's the substance that's involved in energy metabolism. So it's completely stimulating all of these things. Now, if I just share something with you, this substance is rising from the gonads up, and as a result of this, it's stimulating a pathway of energy to be drawn up, and not only that, but the energy to have the ability to also go down. So having this apparatus down very low, enables us truly to have pathways all the way through our system that actually then finding, like if this is a molecule that's left behind, like an opioid molecule or something, that pro-opiomelanocortin is left behind here, as the energy is coming down, the only way that it can come down is because it can be matched with the opioid receptor that's there. It's like the capillary action, how water climbs like a rope or a cloth. The reason why the water has the ability to climb that cloth is because there's an energy that's in the cloth that's attracting like energy, and so it slowly keeps drawing the molecules up like this. And you can imagine that this process actually is occurring in the body. So our sexual self and our creative self very much is involving the same energy. That when you have a passion for the things that you're doing, there's a sense of your creativity involved in this, and this is very important. Mostly you'll notice this is something hardly people talk about, and that's very important. Isn't it interesting? I've had people come to me, and they've been in therapy for years, and what I notice is that this person's there's hardly any sexual energy in the person at all. And I ask them, has anybody ever talked to you about sexuality? The person says no. And I said, you mean to say your therapist, the people that you've been to, have not shared anything, talked to you about this? The person says no. And then I say to the person, well, I think there's a very important function and part of our life, and that I think that it's a good idea that we talk a little about this, actually. Because most people are kind of feeling like it's a little taboo to talk about that, and that's crazy. This is very important, actually. And you'll notice that when people are a little depressed or feeling down, that's one of the very first things. It starts to disappear a little. And when this person getting well again, that's a very important function, that person's feeling and having the ability to be intimate with self. Okay.
If that current that's flowing up, and then if we're using that same pathway for learning, if we're going from the brainstem up to the neocortex, so we're kind of drawing the current up, whereas when you're learning from the neocortex down, are you going electrically kind of against the current coming up? I mean, is there a value in drawing that energy up too?
Yes, there is, because it's true. If I'm playing the piano completely by imagining that I'm a master and I'm totally allowing my body to do it, or when I see sometimes you're playing the guitar, you're actually doing a little left brain thing where sometimes not quite actually listening to how long the string resonates and how the next string would fit, but doing it more of a left brain, and something that's very without much melody or length or staccato, or a little bit more of a rhythm actually fitting in there, where someone's learning the piano and they're going just like da 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 da, or something like that, So learning to play the drums, learning to play any instrument this way, picking it up and completely imagining that you have the ability totally to be masterful, listening actually to the sound that you're making. And so this first starts really happening when somebody says to you, actually play a tune, actually play something, and really be sensing that you are playing, rather than just, actually thinking about where my fingers would be and that kind of thing, allowing that to completely happen. It's more likely then that the brainstem up is coming from everything that you've habituated and learned about what you love, about music and everything is all there.
So David, Kundalini is this...
Pro-opiate melanocortin.
Okay, and it's generated usually through the male the gonads, female the ovaries.
Both are gonads.
Both gonads, yes.
Okay.
Right.
So, those gonads. One of the theories of Kundalini energy is that it has to be activated from above. So, I had always taken that to mean some type of heaven's force coming through.
Yes, I mean...
Okay, and that, it sounds like you could activate it just by thoughts, which would be also heaven's force coming through. But you can activate the sexual organs with thinking or whatever. In Minnesota, there are many people that talk about Kundalini. They had a Kundalini thing. They have some tingling somewhere in their body. And they say, have some kind of loose Kundalini or something. And my experience is that they have some kind of loose teacher happening. Is what's happening. When they don't understand something, they say, oh, that's a Kundalini experience. And that wasn't my experience in the past.
So actually, one thing about meditators in the East is they sometimes get like pains a little bit in the left side of their body. They become very sensitive, in fact, as a result of years of being in introspection and having developed this sense of self, that they have so much pathway accessing, the left side somewhat, right, that they're very sensitive actually to things, in fact, that occur there. Sometimes they describe this actually as this Kundalini energy, that's rising more or less from the body, activating pathways. It's a way that people are using this word to describe something actually, which is an energy that's rising inside the self. It's possible for a person to say that it's a Kundalini energy.
Well, it's very possible they do it on a regular basis. What I'm saying is, unless there's some type of understanding of what Kundalini, if you're talking Kundalini and I'm talking Kundalini and yours is opiate.
Pro-opiate-melanocortin.
Right, if that's your Kundalini.
Yes.
My Kundalini is just a juke of energy who's gone crazy around my neck or stuck in my brain. Then that's two different types of things.
Might not be, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, it might be the same.
Yeah, it might be the same.
Yeah.
And
Pro-opiate-melanocortin.
So, on our recovery behavior characteristics, we can add under increased social activity, increased sexual activity.
Well, I mean,
What do you mean?
increased playfulness, increased,
Playfulness?
I mean, you could increase creativity, increased, you could say some things
Okay.
specifically. However, I think that there's something there that's generic.
Hot molecule.
But quite possibly, something needs to be said that's encompassing our creative self, our sexual creative self. But I think that's probably there, I don't know. Okay. Is there anything else?
Any other questions? Anybody?
Okay, let's please, somebody who hasn't asked a question, really, it would be a good idea to, no, even if somebody has asked a question, but if somebody hasn't asked a question, I think it would be a good idea to...
I have a question.
Oh, good.
How does the lodestone and the ethmoid organ relate to the vestibular sense? You said something like the vestibular system is at the seat.
Yes. Okay, the vestibular system is that apparatus enables spatial location. Okay, it totally is understanding spatial location. Whereas the ethmoid organ simply is tuned to the micro pulsations coming from the earth. The ethmoid organ is totally in the northern hemisphere here, tuned to magnetic north. And so that's all. And that the vestibular system is providing information as well on spatial location, and the ethmoid organ is also feeding information into the vestibular system, sensing magnetic north.
So is that how more primitive cultures or whatever, like the Tasmanian Aboriginals, have more of a sense of direction? Is that they use that on a regular basis?
Yes, absolutely. You can spin one of those blokes around in the bush and they'll still head off in the direction they were going in before. Right.
is this something that can be developed with practice?
Oh, yes, and most of us have this ability, but if we start to consciously focus on it, it seems to disappear.
Now, is there something, could you take in extra minerals to build up the loads? Is there a possibility of that?
I don't know.
Increase in sensitivity, what's there?
Are they made out of the same thing?
Yes, only they're organic. Maybe that's possible, Ned. The one thing I think is that we're born with this amount. It's like actually the eyes or anything else. That they are requiring nutrients.
Yeah.
That's true.
The trace minerals probably.
Yes, I would say there's probably trace minerals for sure coming through organic stuff that would be involved.
And where are the lodestones exactly?
The ethmoid organ. There's a spongy bone tissue behind the back of the nose going up into the brain. This is the ethmoid organ.
Is that what the lodestones are?
Yeah.
It's
the richest, densely packed area in the body with receptors and neural pathways coming from this. There isn't a single other place in the body that has as much receptors in this area than the ethmoid organ. It's acting like a switch, in fact.
They've known that since, I know they've known it since the Middle Ages, because all the alchemists, they used to, when that part of the skull where the ethmoid organ is, that was a really sacred bone. That little winged bone, they would get that bone. That was considered a sacred bone.
Oh, yes.
Selatertia part of the ethmoid.
Say that again, the...
Selatertia?
No,
the turkey saddle where the pituitary rests?
It's real close, actually. I know that they're so related to each other that, in fact, the pineal gland through the hypothalamus and the hippocampus, because everything's very close there, right? All is getting information feeding from the ethmoid organ. So, for instance, at 4 o'clock, between the hours of 3 and 5, as Ned would know, this is a kidney bladder meridian period of time during the day. And the reason why it is because the micro pulsations coming through from the earth, feeding through the ethmoid organ, is stimulating things to be released, and this is more or less coming in harmony with the oscillation of the kidneys and the bladder. So it's kind of like a sympathetic vibrational priming of these organs during that period of time. Whereas between the hours of 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, at this period of time, is a heart governor time. This is a period of time when the heart is having its heyday and is being primed sympathetically by the electromagnetic energy and the micropulsations coming through from the ethmoid organ again. So all the way through the day, in fact, various organs are being primed. It'd be a good idea to get hold of the chart. Probably Ned, if you're interested, Ned can... Yeah, that's a good idea to be up with this kind of information. You know, really, what time of the day is actually something functioning?
Here's an ancient, not ancient, but here's a metaphysical drawing that talks about the Kundalini, and right where that is where they have this red and then the blue. And the branch.
Interior there.
That's in some Jubb book. I was telling you, I think my mother would enjoy.
This is from...
Is that a photograph there on the other page?
This is a picture of the pineal gland.
Wow, great picture.
Mushroom.
Yeah, very good picture.
See, that's what they're showing. They're saying that this right here is the same as right there.
So the pineal gland is...
It's the book that goes body. And this Tantra book has some good charts in it too.
Yeah, so the pineal gland is that aspect of us that's functioning as a result of how much light. Okay, so now the ethmoid organ is picking up micropulsation from the earth. The pineal gland is completely in tune with the stars, the moon and the sun and the constellation of the planets and everything, completely tuning and developing personality as a result of the amount of light that was there in the first lunar cycle that you experienced on this earth. You know, many things were set as a result of the amount of light that you experienced. Light, yes. And the pineal gland is tucked away in the darkest place in the body. There can't be a darker place than where the pineal gland is housed. And the Tuatora, which is the oldest reptile left on Earth, still was living at the dinosaur era, has a pineal gland which is very close to the skin. And so it's acting like a third eye, actually.
Okay, that was like the latter half of my question too. Is the pineal, which one is closer to the front, the pineal or the
Pituitary.
Pituitary.
Pituitary is coming as a direct outgrowth of the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus is regulating internal milieu, and the pituitary secretes substances, information substances into the bloodstream that goes right through the body, affecting various things, affecting internal milieu quite incredibly.
Okay, so it seems to me that the ethmoid organ and the lodestones are directly connected with the concept of the third eye, having a third eye, like the direction-seeking part of self that is like an eye, but it's...
Yes, you could say that this is part of our inner eye. Yes, you could certainly say that. It's certainly part of our inner eye because this switching mechanism actually is what enables us to have access to the cortex and parts of the brain, which creates whole brain functioning. Because it's the ethmoid organ and the septal region in here which creates flow to occur in the brain. In other words, when you lengthen the inspiration through your nose, this is tapping into neural pathways which are about flow and peak experience. This is the physiology of accessing that state, lengthening the inspiration through the nose.
When a baby's born, it's real soft up here.
Yeah.
So it actually would there would be light access for
Yes, a greater amount of light access, that's correct. Yes.
And isn't that setting all their cycles too?
Yes, incredibly. Everything.
So, and then also babies, I'm really onto this third eye thing. So babies, when they're born, often have like a rash for the first couple of years, like right over their third eye.
Sometimes.
Often they do, yeah. Do you think that's also like the ethmoid organ kind of?
I would say that it's in the relationship to the way the ethmoid organ in the third eye and the electromagnetic energy of the way the brain is forming, that redness has to do with the energy bringing infrared, attracting infrared like our hairs do as well. The hair on our arms and the way the hair is laying attracts infrared energy, in fact, to the body. And the hair pattern, in fact, is allowing this infrared energy to be in the pattern and the way the hair grows. Much information has come as a result of studying the patterns of the hair. You'll notice that on the right side of the face there's an energy coming down, and on the left side of the face there's more of an energy coming up, and that's true. There's energy coming up on this side of the body. On the left side, front side of the body, the energy is coming up and going down on the back left side, and the energy is going down on the right front side and coming up on the back, and this is the way the energy is running in the body. So in the body work that you do with people, if you're understanding the way that the current flows in the body, you can enhance the current intensely. Simply, I can do this right now in my ear. By doing this, I'm affecting the etheric field, literally. And you'll be amazed, you can create a clearing, literally, by doing this. Certainly, understanding the way that energy comes into your hand and energy is coming in a little more on the left hand and flowing out a little more on the right hand. You can use your hand to draw, your left hand to draw, and your right hand to pull energy. And that you're using your hands this way, you can enhance the therapeutic process. Okay. Any more questions? Hopefully each person has a question this morning, and then we can take a break.
You may have made a remark yesterday about how it's common fear, especially a visually rated pilot flying into a deep cloud.
Yeah.
Cloud-based.
Okay, Ken is the pilot amongst us. Okay, Ned wants it. Oh, okay.
And the fear is you lose visual, which is a primary sense lately.
Yes.
And we automatically go to the instruments.
Yes.
I've flown through clouds, and I really haven't experienced any vertigo, but I've heard a lot about it.
Yes, okay, David. Somebody, now a child, sometimes like with children that I would work with, some of these kids would be really afraid if it was dark. And the reason why is because the visual system is giving the vestibular system information that the vestibular system might not quite have by itself. Partly because there may have been some atrophy of cells supporting the vestibular system. But the main thing here simply is that the visual system gives information, right, to the vestibular system. But I could also imagine that, how my balance is with my eyes closed. Okay. The main thing is the visual system. Sometimes a person's totally relying on the visual system. Actually, somebody who's relying on their visual system really is in need of seeing something on the outside of them there to know how they're doing with something, right? But someone who is not so much been relying on the visual system, completely relying on the vestibular system, this person can ski on rough water and just tear that rough water up even, practically. Because they're skiing, they're just skiing from feeling completely. Even if they had their eyes closed, practically, they could still be skiing. So it's a good idea to be developing that aspect of self as well, the vestibular sense.
Back to the plane. If you're in the plane in C position and you lose visual altogether, if you get out of visual and just feel it, your vestibular system won't lie to you. You'll still maintain the balance, and you'll
yes,
you more than likely end up upside down as opposed to on the side.
Well,
So it won't lie to you, it just won't tell you exactly where you are.
Okay, so that's true. You can develop this part of self, and even if you didn't have instruments, the instruments that you have inside your head could save you in this situation. That you would be aware, that you can be aware.
If you access the vestibular, you could be upside down.
I would say that, to the degree to which you can get information from the vestibular system and to develop that, that's a good idea. And to do it, sometimes to walk across rough ground, with your eyes closed, and to be being able to spin with your eyes closed, to do things actually blindfolded, is really developing your acuteness with which you're aware.
What usually gets upside down and all this is panic. You're shutting down sensory feedback, sensory-specific feedback.
Yes, so that's possible that the vestibular system is shut out a little. It's possible through habit.
Well, in a plane, a very subtle movement over a long period of time will create that space. And if you don't have instruments, and talking with my dad and some old pilots, they used to fly with a lot of times without instruments or broken instruments, and they didn't hit a cloud bank for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, they'd hit it for 3 hours. And the best, they've got their compass, but their compass could go upside down too.
Right.
And sometimes they would be going along and they would hit a space of clear in the clouds and realize they were upside down, not even knowing they were.
You didn't put on their seatbelts.
Yeah, they have their seatbelts. That's why they can do it. They have these unbelievable
But
seatbelts.
don't.
Huh?
You feel your weight on the front belt.
Well, this is their stories. It's in the literature. It's not something.
Well, anyway, the one thing about this that's why we have instruments in the plane is because once you start going, okay, now the vestibular system only registers if there's movement. Okay, but if the movement is over a continuous, gradual period of time, it's possible that the vestibular system's not quite, of course it is, but the person's ability to be tuned into it might not be the same. When especially once you pick up to 300 miles an hour and you're travelling at 300 miles an hour, unless you accelerate or you slow down, you won't know that you're travelling at 300 miles an hour. The body becomes used to that plane, and it's only the receptors are only registering, if there's acceleration or deacceleration. Let's say the person goes into a bank and starts to turn round like this. Okay, it's possible that once the person initiates the turn and it becomes regular, that no longer is the vestibular system registering as much as it was initially when you first started to go into the turn. So this is the reason why we have instruments. However, it's possible still to totally be developing that part of self that's understanding this, so that you're really using this. Balancing without your eyesight, really develops this aspect of self. Okay, somebody else. And actually, if you haven't got a question, look at the work, and because everybody should have a question this morning. This is my understanding that people are learning. Those of you who have asked questions, you really are learning this material.
I have a question pertains to part of the reading.
It doesn't have to even be a question, it can be a statement about something that you read. Pick out something that's then valuable for us, for the group, and for the people who are listening on tape.
Into integration and congruency. You said in here, a person may polarize and sort information this way because this is the way they learn to sort information. One learns this by leaving things to the last moment before. Feeling wound up enough to actually do the task, the aversive componentry of the brain is stimulating that part of the brain which turns the volume up and alerts you to action. It creates a state for learning information by polarizing. So this person will say no to something you said, and you want to say something similar. This is sort of a difference. I was wondering what the relationship between this and, say, a habit of procrastinating is.
Oh, okay, so then it's quite possible that the procrastination leaves you feeling averse a little, which, enables you to be doing stuff. That it does turn your reticular activating system up, because when you say something and then you don't do it, you go, well, gee, didn't get that done, and this kind of thing that happens as a pattern, it's possible that this is actually alerting the reticular activating system, so that you are doing some things, perhaps, Yeah. The main thing about that, actually, what Richard has highlighted here is simply that sometimes actually the person's totally always mostly sorting through the virtual componentry. And there's plenty of people out there that do this. And that's okay. The main thing is that you have the ability to recognise when someone is doing this. Mostly the person, their heart will be racing often when they are doing this, and that epinephrine is an information substance. It's enabling the person to have access to state-specific behaviour. It's enabling the person to have ability to be able to recall, because the ability to recall is state-specific or become state-specific to anxiety and epinephrine as an information substance. And when you are sorting for likeness, or when you are sorting for what you understand, this is everything. Because when anything would ever make sense to you, it always jives with something you're already understanding inside, if it makes sense. So it's a good idea for us truly to be sorting for what we're understanding.
How would you change that in yourself? If you knew you were a negative polarizer, how would you begin to
by first starting to sort for likeness, by sorting for supporting, being in a support position rather than an antagonistic position, by finding out what things that you can do actually to forward the situation, rather than the polarizing person generally has a lot to say about what's messed up mostly, and so by changing literally the focus completely to be focused on what's working and what you enjoy and what people are enjoying, by focusing on likeness, that how similar that we are actually, rather than sometimes how different, what the difference is in something. Sorting for, actually, for me, many people say, well, how do you know everybody's this way? And I say, well, I don't necessarily know that everybody's this way, but most people are. And I'm sorting for what it is that's mostly happening here, and then somebody might say, well, how do you know that this function is occurring up in the brain? And I say, well, everybody has their heart on their left side, and everybody has their liver on their right side, and everybody has their spleen on their left side. And we haven't really found many people, where the reverse is the case. And then people say, how do you know everybody's this way? I say, because I saw it in one person. Once you see that somebody has a heart, it's possible to understand that everybody has a heart without having to go, checking inside everybody.
I was wondering about that with left-handed people, how much difference that makes, and maybe a small part of the population.
Okay. The main thing is that everybody has the information that's going from this hemisphere, the left hemisphere, always goes to one limb, whereas the right hemisphere always goes to both limbs equally. The left hemisphere always pretty much goes to one limb, either the left or the right. Now, somebody who is left-handed, this person is gifted in a manner that they are more able to be using degrees of their right hemisphere, in things that they're doing as well as their left. So these people have great ability spatially. They have a great ability of visual spatial function, quite incredibly usually. A person who's a little bit more right-handed tends to be a little better possibly, or gifted somewhat in a manner of sequencing things, and a little bit more involved possibly in logic. A person who's a little bit more left-handed, this person perhaps can make a wonderful, or is gifted at least in as a hairdresser, or as an architect, or as anything that's involving visual spatial functioning. Generally, this person has some gifted abilities with. So the main thing there simply is that we have the same, we're structured the same, however we use our structure sometimes a little differently. That's all. This information I'm sharing with you about somebody coming down over here to the left with over to the left with their eyes, regardless of the person being left or right-handed, this person's structured the same. The right hemisphere is much more myelinated, it's much whiter, it has much more insulation than the left.